I'm Laura Rolfe, host of Powered by Franchising. I am excited to welcome a very special guest to the Powered by Franchising show today, Jennifer Maggiore. She is the CEO and founder of Always This Good. So welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, Jennifer and I have known each other quite a long time, and I have really enjoyed partnering with Jennifer on some women in empowerment seminars, the advisory, which we'll talk more about today, as well as a very special VIP day that Jennifer and I spent together last week to focus on my business and how I'm going to continue to develop and grow. I find that it is really important to have mentors and other female entrepreneurs in my circle of friends and professional network. So, Jennifer, let's start with, how did you become an entrepreneur, and what's your journey been like?
That's a great question. So I started my business in 2005, so almost 20 years ago now. I got my first job. I guess we should back up. I got my first job the day after I turned 14. I walked down to the McDonald's by my house and got my first job. And so I was lucky in a short time and at a young age to get a lot of varied work experience. Wound up working for fast food chains, worked in corporate America, lots of experience. And my parents always had restaurants when I was growing up. And so I was exposed to entrepreneur life. And then after having all of those experiences, I think natural entrepreneurs sort of tend to have that, that attitude of, I can do this better. I can build a better mousetrap. I don't need anybody to tell me what to do. So I think, as I approached young adulthood and getting married and wanting flexibility and feeling like I had control over my work life and my daily schedule, entrepreneurialism just seemed like a natural fit. And now we joke that I'm unemployable. I would really struggle, I think, not to be self-employed at this point.
What are some of the benefits of being an entrepreneur, working for yourself, and are those some of the driving factors that you still see today?
I think it has changed for me over time. So, when I started my business 20 years ago, it was only with the thought in mind that I wanted to have control of my schedule. We knew we wanted to get married, my husband and I. We wanted to start a family. I wanted to be home. I wanted to be able to go to awards programs and, go to games and be there for those things. Over time, though, the thing that is exciting for me about entrepreneurship, and especially helping women entrepreneurs to succeed, is the empowerment that comes from owning a business. For somebody who is creative and likes variety, it gives you that opportunity to continue reinventing yourself and reinventing your work. And I think as we go through the different phases of life, we can keep changing what that means, whether that is changing our schedule, changing the customers that we work with, changing the services or products that we offer. So I think for me, it is that empowerment and that variety that comes with having that kind of control.
Yeah, I think we first started working together. You were focused on helping my company with strategic marketing plans and growing our social media presence, which was terrific at the time. That was something that I was not skilled in, still not one of my strengths, social media, but I do my best. So how has your business changed and morphed and become more focused on addressing the needs of female entrepreneurs over time?
That's a really good question. So I think there were a few factors involved. First and foremost, I really loved social media. Around the time that I started my business in 2005, we were in the very early days of social media. It was really not until a few years later that we had MySpace, but then LinkedIn, Twitter, the social media platforms as we know them today, which is now X. And I was very excited about the potential and the possibility. I remember actually having conversations on Twitter in those early days with people debating, will we ever be able to market with Twitter, which is so funny now to think of, right? Or can we ever measure our success, right? And you fast forward to today, and there's so many analytics capabilities. But I think, over the years, as time went on, I started to feel a little bit disillusioned by social media. It felt like having an agency felt like owning a business that was dependent upon an outside force that I could not control. And I think as time went on and there's a lot of concerns around, kids on the platforms and privacy issues and algorithms and breaches and hacks and the questions and concerns we get from our customers, they're giving us money. They don't care that Facebook's having the issue. They want us to answer for things. It started to feel like the business was really dependent on outside forces. And so, I was really back in 2015, 16, 17, engaging in these client relationships where we were really starting to talk so much more outside of just marketing, right? Because when the marketing works, it's like, oh gosh, now we have a customer service issue, or oh no, our operations aren't keeping up, or manufacturing can't keep up. And so really naturally started to have, the experience with those clients that, was much more holistic in terms of the scope. And then certainly by the time, the pandemic hit, it was lots and lots of time for us to just kind of sit back and perfect and reposition. And really, I found through my own experiences with a mentor and some coaching groups that I just loved championing women. For me, having, being able to witness a woman who experiences that level of control in her business and that economic empowerment, there is nothing that is more satisfying for me as a business owner. And so it really was just this natural fit to say, like, yes, we are able to consult specifically with women, but also through that lens of self-care and making sure that they are successful in achieving their goals without burning themselves out.
Yeah, many of our audience members are looking at or are franchise entrepreneurs. And I've been a franchise consultant for the last 4 years and found that there's something powerful about being involved in networking groups. I've started a Women in Franchising Mastermind. I also am part of an accountability group. But I've felt the need to look outside of franchising as well, which is why we continue to work together, because I need a different lens on my business than other people who are right there in that same lens as mine. So last week we had the opportunity to have a focus day, a VIP day, to review my business, my goals, but it was a much deeper dive into not only my business, but my work-life balance and spirituality. Tell me about the VIP experience and what you hope to accomplish for other women who look to you for those VIP retreat days.
The VIPs are one of my favorite services to offer because it is a deep dive and it is that opportunity to leave behind a lot of the distractions and competing priorities and just focus on this woman and what it is that she wants and growing her business, achieving her goals. And it's really interesting to me. I think our main objective there is to really get out of people, what do you want? What is it that you really actually want? And I think a lot of times, like, well, I want to make more money. Okay, but what does that money allow you to do? Because that's what you really actually want. Like, we don't need money in the bank is great. Don't get me wrong. I love money, but money empowers us to feel a certain way or to do certain things or, to be generous. Generosity was a theme that kept coming up for you because you're such a generous person, right? And the feeling that we get when we're able to kind of live out what we feel the money will empower us to do. And it's so important to start feeling those feelings now because that's actually how we accomplish things is to feel that way about ourselves now. That's what gives us the courage to take the leap. That's what allows us to recognize opportunities as they come along rather than, oh, I'm going to wait to feel this way or celebrate, once I've accomplished this thing. And so it is really important for us to look at not only those business goals, but also on a personal level, what it is that woman wants to achieve. And then throughout the day, as you experienced, we had a licensed massage therapist come in and do chair massage. So, as the days get intense and we're in our heads and we're thinking, we have somebody that comes in and helps. We have a certified yoga teacher that comes in and does some mindful movement and stress management. And so throughout the day, it is gaining that clarity around what we want and developing the plan to get to it, but also really engaging in self-care as we do that.
I've been practicing some of those box breaths that I learned last week with the breath and mindful coach. So that's really been an important part of my new practice of my day, to take breaks throughout the day and do a reset. And I become much more focused throughout my afternoon.
I love it. It's free, it's easy, you can do it anywhere. And it's funny, you tell people breathe and it seems like, yeah, okay, I'm breathing. But that is really an incredible technique.
Well, and it's also important for an entrepreneur like myself to pause and have those VIP days and reflect what is most important in my life and in my business, and what are my short-term as well as long-term goals, and come up with concrete, palatable things and steps that I can do as a whole person and not just as an entrepreneur, because I can get so wrapped up in finances and making more money and meeting the needs of my clients where they're at that I forget to do those box breaths or take a pause or take an afternoon off or plan a vacation. So we talked and strategized about all those things during our
Love it, right?
conversation.
Like everything from that micro level of I'm not going to burn myself out today to big picture, I want to travel. I want to travel alone. I want to travel with people that I love, right? Like these are all the things that I want to do. But if we are not staying super focused and really clear on what it is that we want, we're all getting pushed and pulled constantly with competing priorities. And especially for women, I think that just goes out the window when people need from us. So staying focused on those desires is hugely, hugely important.
Yes, well, I want to thank you for our time together last week. It was very valuable.
It's my pleasure.
Also, I'm one of the founding members of the advisory, as you call it. Talk about the advisory and the benefits for any of our listeners who may want to join a women in entrepreneurship group.
So the advisory has been developed really, I call them business besties, right? Like we have our friends that we call and we can, gripe to them or vent or talk about what's going on in our lives or, ask for advice. And I oftentimes felt this sort of frustration of I don't have a lot of like-minded women around me. Like, how am I going to call a friend and explain, I'm ready to like wring somebody's neck, or we're having this billing issue or this platform problem or these, whatever that is, without having to explain it all, and then it takes the wind out of your sails when you just want a good vent session, right? And so I realized very early on that having that support system of like-minded women is so crucial. It's so, so important for so many different reasons. We could talk for an hour just on that, but this group is made to be, financially accessible for a lot of people. It's designed to have a lot of impact in a short time, and it is whatever you make of it, because we have a growing library of business templates. We have our office hours calls, access to guest experts, and live hot seat feedback. So there's so much involved in that group, so that really a lot of it is on demand and it's very flexible, but gives you those connections that you need, gives you the opportunity to create that network and that support system, and have access to expert guidance, which is super important whether you're just starting out or if you are an established entrepreneur and maybe you are making a pivot or you want to change some things. That kind of support is invaluable.
Well, and I think it's important to note that we all come from varied backgrounds and very varied experiences, and from all over the country. It's a Zoom call, so you don't have to be present and local here in Phoenix, Arizona.
Right.
You can be international and join the advisory and get a lot of the rewards and benefits.
Absolutely. Yep. Whether you live somewhere else or you're traveling or very active, it is made to be very convenient.
Well, and I think you like to travel as well, because you take some of your retreats and you've done them in Washington. And
we're doing a cruise next summer. Yes, love that flexibility.
Well, and you continue to enrich your skill set too. I understand that you're working on your yoga certification.
We are. So it was really interesting. Maybe 6 months ago, I love to read. I'm always reading. I always love to learn. And I saw a statistic that 3/4 of super achievers have had to overcome trauma. And I thought, oh, wow, that's really interesting that we have that commonality, right? Like a lot of us, like high achievers, overachievers, we have these skills that we put to good use today that we developed in survival mode. And so really understanding that, we started to do a lot of reading and a lot of research, and realized how important it is for us to be able to offer those self-care modalities that allow for that mind-body connection, but also offering trauma-informed services as well. So really understanding when we're working with those high achievers that have had a lot to overcome, and helping to direct them to additional help outside of what we're able to offer, making sure that those skills that they learned in trauma, sometimes we can go overboard and we can burn ourselves out and we suppress our own needs or we suppress our emotions. And those are helpful when you're in survival. And sometimes it's helpful in the business day, right? To a degree. But when we take that to the dark side, like two extremes, that's not good for us. And so being able to recognize that and help our clients with that has been really important.
Well, and I understand you have a newest member of the
Yes.
Always This Good team, your Fido you've had for a year. Tell me about
Luca.
how he became a service dog and a member of Always This Good.
It's funny. We adopted him, like almost a year ago now, I think. And he has this great demeanor. He's a German Shepherd. He's so sweet. He's such a good dog. And of course, as a puppy, he's crazy and he's destroying everything. But as he's getting older, we're finding that he's very gentle. He's very sweet. He's very friendly. And so we started to toy with the idea. He comes to the office with us almost every day. And as clients meet him, I noticed there's this really interesting kind of deeper connection that happens with the dog a lot of times. And so we thought, gosh, I wonder if he'd be a good service animal. And so we started to work with a trainer who is helping us with that endeavor, helping him to recognize things like anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and being able to help to kind of calm those feelings. But yeah, Luca he's a fantastic dog. He's super special. And it's funny how those things kind of drop in at the right time and just sort of happen. He came along at the right time.
Yes, well, I have two fur dogs at home too, so they are definitely calming. And so you have a retreat center here in Phoenix. Tell me about some of the events that you host there and the value for entrepreneurs to gather at your retreat center.
Yes, so we, it will be almost 2 years now that we purchased and renovated the building in Uptown Phoenix. And we have lots of different types of events in the summertime when it's extremely hot and people are going away for their vacation, not quite as much. But yes, we offer different types of events throughout the year. So we have our signature events, things like our retreats and our VIP days, but then we also have kind of other one-off events. So like the vision board party that you attended, where we had this incredible gathering of these amazing women. It's so interesting, the synergies that happen in the business that gets done after those meetings, those people that come together in those rooms. But we have events there all the time, and certainly in the fall when things cool off and people are back from their summer travels, we will have more. So all of that information is available on our website.
Well, when we get together as entrepreneurs and do something which seems maybe kind of frivolous of doing a vision board, and we get focused on what our vision board is going to look like for 2024, natural camaraderie and chatter, and we look at each other's vision boards and kind of decide, okay, well, I need to add that kind of card, or I need to look for which magazine did you find that little snippet that talks about travel or money or a new car? Adding that to a vision board is really fun. And then some of the stories that came out of that vision boarding day. There was a nonprofit leader in that group that was not necessarily looking or seeking donations or volunteers, but both came out of that day. So it's the cool camaraderie of women entrepreneurs coming together in all sorts of opportunities, whether it's at the retreat center or on a call or just networking opportunities. I think that is just remarkable.
It's so hugely important. I couldn't have said it better. It's so hugely important. This is why that network and that support system, that is so extremely important to get together. And I also think it's always so interesting when we have our vision board parties and we get a group together. Sometimes we don't know that we can dream a dream until we see somebody else dreaming it or living it out or had never thought of it or give ourselves permission. We get so caught up in the how would that ever happen or how would I make this happen? And you don't have to worry about that. You just have to know that you want it, right? And so, I always love getting those groups together and seeing how they inspire each other and how that sort of informs or shapes their goals for the next year.
For any of our listeners who are aspiring entrepreneurs or possibly early in their entrepreneurial journey, what advice do you have for them?
Oh gosh, there's so much, but if I had to boil it down to one thing, I think it's not worrying so much about how something is going to happen, just getting clear on wanting it, just really setting those goals and then making sure you're sticking to it. We live in a world that is fast paced. There are so many priorities. There are so many needs, so many opportunities and possibilities that come our way. And, you know, we talked a little bit about, you know, how do we stay focused instead of we have shiny ball syndrome where it's like, oh, this cool thing or this thing that I could be doing, but getting really clear on what that is that you want to accomplish and not worrying so much about how it's going to get done just yet, but giving yourself that permission to say, this is the kind of life that I would like to have. And, you know, I also think creating a business, setting out to create a business that supports you in a particular lifestyle. I spent the beginning of my career in really how we wound up at this pivot where we've incorporated self-care is I had a period of time where I burned myself out so badly, dealing with, you know, my family of origin and some of the issues. You know, there was substance abuse and you know, a lot of things going on there, but then also having a child who was very critically ill at a very young age. I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and so kind of dealing with all of those issues. And, you know, I was kind of at the mercy of my business for the first half of my entrepreneurship journey until I realized, I'm like, wait a minute. My business is supposed to empower me to live how I want. I'm not supposed to be living to build this business. And so I think, you know, really thinking in those terms about what you want and building it that way from the beginning, that would be my number one piece of advice.
And I like what you said about, you know, you have all these things happening around you. So creating that pause and allowing yourself to create a pause, maybe working with a mentor and some other valuable people in your circle to vet what you're feeling. And are you headed down the right path, or do you need a course correction to move in a slightly different direction or altogether a different direction?
Absolutely, 100%. Mentors are extremely important. And I think it's also really important to stick to your guns, right? Like I've had incredible mentors that have really encouraged me to move forward with things that, you know, when I was afraid or I just needed to have a sounding board to help me organize my thinking process. There were also times that I had mentors that gave me advice that I think didn't really serve me. And there were times that I took that advice and had to learn that the hard way. And there were other times where I stayed obstinate. And I think that's a really important quality in entrepreneurs. You kind of take all of the information and all of the advice and all of the expertise, and you take what works and you leave the rest, and giving yourself permission to say, that doesn't work for me. That's not the direction I want to go in. I made that mistake too. So, you know, I think it is always looking for all of the solutions and the possibilities and all of the good advice. And then at the end of the day, being willing to take what works.
That a solid mentor is how I started podcasting. And we chatted about podcasting, gosh, it's been probably 20 months ago. And I wasn't ready then. So sometimes when you're talking to your mentors and vetting different opportunities, you have to look at the timing and
you're planting seeds sometimes.
Yes. And what does that picture look like? And then through encouragement, and some people said, yes, absolutely, podcasting is a great direction to go. And other people are like, well, that's maybe not. So like you said, listening to the feedback of others and then ultimately making your own decision, whether it's becoming an entrepreneur and starting your own business from the ground up, or investing in a franchise, creating a business plan. So what does that look like? And then adjusting along the way to meet your
Absolutely.
needs.
Everything, it's always changing, right? It's all an experiment. It's all an experiment until we do it and it succeeds, or until we do it and maybe it doesn't turn out how we want, but we learn some lessons. Absolutely. It's all an experiment.
What excites you most about the future, Jen?
Right now, I think just that there are so many opportunities for women entrepreneurs, you know, to come in and disrupt, whether that's technology, whether that's social ventures. There's so many different opportunities. And I think a little bit closer to home, the thing that excites me right now at Always Is Good is we've got a stronger team than we've ever had. We've got amazing people, and we all have this, you know, really united by this common vision for our future. And, you know, having a cruise retreat next summer, everybody's very excited to travel, and really helping them to understand I'm not building a business just because it's this, you know, vehicle for me and my lifestyle, but what's important to them and what do they want? I mean, we have this incredible group of people that we're investing in keeping through training, through, you know, these exciting opportunities to travel and the things that we have happening. So, the sky's the limit. We've got the people, we've got the programs. It's an exciting time.
Do you have anything new rolling out in the next 6 months that you want to share with our listeners?
We do. So we have right now, the advisory is launching officially. So we've got that happening. We have retainer services. So that is a service that is a little bit closer to more traditional business consulting where, for 6 or 12 months engagement, we are supporting strategic planning and implementation of those plans over time. And then as an add-on offering, we have heard complaints over and over, our clients trying to find a virtual assistant. It seems like everybody's like, get a VA, and it's really hard to find a VA. So rolling out VA services and social media content services. So helping, with those core business plans and implementation, but then all of those other little sort of like frustrating tasks that we don't have time, then, it's not the highest and best use of our time, helping our clients to find a solution to that.
That has been a key focus for my business. I am a solopreneur. I can't do it all. So I can build my team. They don't necessarily have to work for me as a W-2 employee, but I can find a virtual assistant. And I'm very excited about your VA services that are coming down that pike. And I'm in the process of redesigning a logo so you are able to help provide resources and point me in the right
Absolutely.
direction.
Yes.
Your creative media calendar has given me a lot of focus as an entrepreneur to not be following the shiny ball, as you said, and really provide more focus.
Staying on the path. Yep, absolutely.
So those are all definitely valuable tools and resources for entrepreneurs. And for any of our listeners who are franchisees or looking at franchising, I think a lot of the same systems, tools, and focus are really important. You get a lot of that support from the franchise system and other franchisees that are your colleagues and work in the same business elsewhere. But like I found, it's also valuable to find a mentor outside of your franchise system to help you look at things from a different lens and a different perspective.
Absolutely. I think that is one of the really valuable aspects too of the advisory or, any exposure you can have. I think a lot of times we feel like we do need to go, invest in networking and mentoring and coaching in our industry. And certainly that's helpful, right? Like we need to have people in our network that understand us at that level. But it's interesting because we will have these events or we have these groups and they're women, all from around the world, different industries, different experiences and backgrounds. They've been in business at different times. But sometimes that's the inspiration you need is to have somebody with a completely different perspective. And, suddenly you hear something and it's like, oh, I can't necessarily do it the way this person's doing, but I could adopt that strategy or I could adopt this mindset and make this work. And now this is something that, is a completely different approach from anything that I've been hearing in the circles of people who are in my same industry or, whatever is that common background. And so getting out and getting exposed to those different perspectives and mindsets is extremely valuable.
What advice do you have for our listeners who may be looking for a mentor? How would they find one?
I think I will say in my own experience, a lot of it is sort of like gut instinct. I think I have, I've worked with extremely high-priced coaches who, had a very sort of aspirational facade. And those were not always the most fulfilling experiences for me, I will say. I think now when I am looking to work with somebody who can help me look at things differently or gain some clarity, I am looking for somebody who I think, certainly it's a professional relationship, but somebody that I think I would be friends with. There is a level of aspiration, right? We are hiring people that have something that we want, that we think that we're struggling to get, and they're going to give us that insight, certainly. But also, I think I personally have overlooked the importance of working with somebody that I think just gets me, that just understands me, and isn't trying to sort of make me over in their own image and what has worked for them, but somebody who can engage in deep listening and asking the right questions and really helping me to gain clarity. That is the advice that I would give. That is the emphasis that I would put on that relationship when qualifying somebody as a mentor or coach.
Right, and somebody who might challenge us to think a little bit differently.
Absolutely.
I think it's very valuable that we have different thought processes and how we get from A to B or A to Z may be very different. And might take us down a different path.
Spot on.
Something we never envisioned before.
Absolutely.
Any other things you want to share with our listeners today, Jen?
Gosh, I think we covered everything. You asked really great questions. I think that's it. I think especially, I know that you have a wide-ranging audience, but I think you're spot on. I think whether you are part of a franchise or not, it is making sure that you're surrounding yourself with people with lots of different experiences and aspirations, finding those people who are like-minded and have similar visions and values that can help support you along the way. I think we covered it. You did great.
So if listeners wanted to reach out to you, what's your website?
The website is alwaysthisgood.com, and that's got information on our latest services and then our cruise. Nobody, the cat is out of the bag. This is the first time that we're really talking about it publicly. We have not announced it. Actually, if you go to our social media, you'll start to see some teasers, but we'll have some information about the cruise retreat next summer going up on the site soon as well.
Can you tell us where it's going to be or any other little insights?
I hope I don't get in trouble. Okay, yes. All right. So it is a 4-night cruise leaving Los Angeles, and it's a day in Catalina Island and Ensenada, Mexico. And we are going to spend our time together as a group mastering our energetic presence, so being really intentional and managing our energy for greater vitality and having more influence in our relationships, our revenue, and our results. And so that's the time that we'll spend together. And then we're going to have lots of fun at a destination and enjoying adventure and all of the wonderful things that a cruise environment offers. But that opportunity, again, to just get away and prioritize ourselves, leave everything at the dock, and just focus on ourselves as the priority.
I love it. I'm excited to see
Better
more
see you there.
information and
Yes.
check the dates, and you'll see me there. So.
Awesome.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the Powered by Franchising podcast, Jen, and I look forward to continuing to be a member of the advisory and working through some of the items that we reviewed last week during VIP Day.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. The more time I spend with you, the more impressed I am. And I love what you're doing and what you do for your clients in the franchising community. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to Powered by Franchising.